What's going on? My name is John, and today we're going to talk about why lumber is so damn expensive and why I actually think that's a good thing for woodworkers. Okay, I'm recording this video on April 14th, 2021, and there's been a bunch of reports coming out the last couple days that despite lumber being at an all-time high price, up 193% over this time last year, futures are showing that prices are going to spike again. So the big question is, how did we get to this point? I'm going to put 45 seconds up on the timer and give you the quick Cliff Notes version. Let's go back in time a mere 365 days ago. A virus known as COVID-19 was ravaging its way across the world, and everyone was told to stay home. So naturally people started to get bored, and everyone from Karen to millennial hipsters decided to get their HGTV on and started going DIY crazy. But like most businesses, the mills were shut down or working on limited hours, so the inventory started to deplete very quickly and prices started heading to the moon. Apparently there were some tariffs imposed on softwood lumber coming from our friends to the north. Interest rates dropped to an all-time low, and people started building more and more houses than ever before. Oh, and Trump sent millions of Americans a big fat check, so everyone decided to go all round two on Operation DIY. The West Coast caught on fire, a decade-long beetle infestation ate a lot of pine trees, and then Americans got more money. Sprinkle in a little economics, and here we are today. I'm not an economist, and I have absolutely no insight on where prices are going to go in the future, but it generally feels like the days of 2x4s under $3 are long gone. So what does all this mean? If you're a woodworker who sources the majority of their lumber from the big box stores, you are one sad puppy right now. For those that do this as a side hustle, I'm going to guess you're passing the increase in material costs onto the end customer. But I'm guessing, like most things in retail, there's a ceiling for how much you can sell your early American stained noodle board for. So I'm sure the business has slowed down a little bit for some of you, and for others who build only for themselves, I'm guessing you put some projects on hold until lumber prices creep back down. If lumber prices do continue to rise, your standard 2x6x8 that many of you use in your basic farmhouse builds is going to creep up to roughly $2.50 to $2.75 a board foot. And the fact that we're talking about dimensional lumber in terms of board feet right now is utterly crazy, but that's the state of the world that we're in. If you're unfamiliar with board feet, it's a measure of volume that hardwood dealers use. Length times width times thickness divided by 12. There's plenty of articles and videos online for you to do a little bit more research on it. If you're a woodworker who fits the description of everything that I just laid out, this is your moment to seize it, take control, and take the next steps in your woodworking journey. That's right. I'm talking about hardwoods. And you probably wouldn't believe it if you only work with softwoods, but there are some hardwoods out there right now that are actually about the same price, and in some cases a little bit cheaper than the dimensional lumber that you're buying from the big box store. But at the end of the day, dimensional lumber really shouldn't be used for furniture making to begin with. Dimensional lumber is used for framing houses, rough carpentry and construction. It's not properly kiln dried, and as it dries, it tends to crack and twist and warp and ultimately ruins your piece. All right, so let's talk about a couple of your options. The most common and the cheapest hardwood that you're going to find at just about every single dealer is poplar. It's an absolute dream to work with. Now, it does get a bit of a bad rap when you're talking about this compared to other hardwoods, because it's a little bit blotchier than some of the others if you do stain it. But when you're comparing this to pine, it's just about the same thing. Now, if you're looking to go full farmhouse and paint this like you're going to use it for the base of something, it takes paint unbelievably well, it sands well, it just finishes perfect. In my area, 1-inch thick poplar, or if you want to be one of the cool kids, 4/4 poplar goes for about $2.50 a board foot, and the thicker 2-inch material, or 8/4, goes for about $4.25 a board foot. Another great option is alder. Now, alder's probably one of the most underrated entry-level hardwoods. 4/4 or 1-inch thick alder ranges in price from $3.25 to $4.25 depending on the clarity of it. And when we talk about clarity, we're talking about the amount of knots that are visible on the piece. This would be a clear piece. This would be an example of knotty or rustic alder. Much like poplar, this stuff tools unbelievably well, but unlike poplar and pine, you actually don't even need to stain alder. It looks fantastic when you put a clear coat on it, whereas poplar and pine tend to look a little bit boring. This one truly has some character and a warm color to it. Now, if you've never worked with hardwoods, you might be asking yourself, what happens when lumber prices go up and down relative to hardwoods? Let me let you in on a dirty little secret about hardwood pricing over the last 365 days. It has not changed at all. Apparently, global pandemics, tariffs, pine beetles, stimulus checks, and Karens have absolutely no impact on the price of hardwoods.
But John, if you buy lumber from a hardwood store versus the big box store, it's rough cut and I have to send it through a planer or a jointer.
If you're unfamiliar with what I was just talking about, rough cut lumber just means that the edges potentially are not straight line ripped. Any place that sells you hardwood will straight line rip one or two sides for a very, very nominal fee. It's actually probably worth it in a lot of cases to save yourself the aggravation. And you can't bullshit a bullshitter, because I know that that lumber that you're buying from Home Depot or from Lowe's is not even close to straight. I've seen some of those 2x4s and some 2x6s. It's like all wavy. It's crazy. Now, I ran some rough numbers prior to shooting this video, and if you're planning on building a table that, let's say, is 48 inches to 6 feet long, upgrading from dimensional lumber at the big box store to poplar or alder like we talked about today, it's going to run you roughly $20 to $75 more at most, maybe $100 if you have them straight line rip a couple sides for you. In the grand scheme of things, the labor is going to be exactly the same, so you're talking about a very nominal price increase for a significantly better piece of furniture. So take some time to educate yourself on building with properly kiln-dried hardwoods versus dimensional lumber from the big box store. Find yourself a hardwood dealer locally or a mom and pop sawmill off of Facebook Marketplace, and ultimately turn what you're viewing as a negative right now into a positive. I hope this video helped and gave you guys something to think about. I will see you on the next one. Fucking Karens. Jesus.